Welcome to the DC Daily Drop, your one-stop shop for today's important news in DC movies, TV, and comics. Here are your hosts, Tom and Zach.
Welcome to a Friday, February 10th edition of the DC Daily Drop. I'm Tom.
And I'm Zach.
And today we're going to be talking about the Lego Batman movie. It's finally out in theaters, and we saw it yesterday. So I guess we're going to start out here with some non-spoiler talk. Zach, what did you think of this movie?
So I was pretty hyped about this movie going into it. I enjoyed the Lego movie. All of the marketing going up to this made it look like it had that same kind of sense of humor, just with some DC stuff kind of sprinkled in. And so I was going to be excited if there was just a couple like in jokes or whatever for DC stuff. And it wildly exceeded my expectations. There is so much funny stuff in this movie that I think you'll appreciate if you're a DC fan, Batman fan in general. And so the story was great, I think, and the humor was spot on almost all the time. So I really don't have any big complaints about this movie. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, the movie is just a blast. Probably one of my favorite comedies in recent memory, I would say. I can't think of many. And I'm not personally a huge animation fan. I pretty much don't watch any animation outside of DC stuff. So definitely love the movie. Lots of DC references that are fun. And I think if you're a DC fan, this is sort of a love letter to the character of Batman and his history since 1939. And they reference pretty much all kinds of things from 1939 to today. And like you said, there's tons of stuff that's really cool for a DC fan. And it's also, I think it does a pretty good job of being just a good movie, whether you know a lot of DC stuff or not.
Yeah. You would enjoy this movie even if you didn't know it. It just adds that whole extra layer, and there's just more things to laugh about if you have that kind of knowledge too. But it's for sure not a bad, unfunny movie if you don't have that kind of background.
Exactly. There's sort of like extra in jokes if you're a DC fan. Yeah. And there's and a Batman fan in particular. And it's also obviously from the reviews and everything, it's if you like the Lego movie, just general people who like the Lego movie and want to go see this would like it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think it did a pretty good job of not just being for kids. I think it helped that it was DC related. There was only probably 2 or 3 jokes where I was like, oh, okay, I could see kids laughing at that, but I don't care about that. So there were a couple instances of that, but overall, those were very few and far between.
Yeah, it's definitely not just a kids movie. There's one joke in particular that I was surprised even made it in the movie, but I guess it just kind of flies over kids' heads, but it's pretty funny, pretty on the line. But yeah, like you said, there's some moments that like, okay, this is a kids movie. They need to do some things, and just the crazy non-stopness of it. That's not really a word, but you know, it's a kids animation movie. So like action and jokes one after the other. There's not a whole lot of quiet time or pauses, which of course you don't need in a kids animation movie.
Right. It's full speed ahead, especially the first I don't know, half hour or so. And then there's a few quieter moments, but obviously where they, you know, character moments, but they don't dwell on them forever. So I think they balanced it very well.
Yeah. And so, like you said, I think there's only a few things that didn't land for me, but like you said, those are the parts that are for kids. And so that was perfectly okay for me. Like some of the jokes that weren't that funny to me, but it didn't take away from the movie at all. And if they didn't have that in it, that might have just been an adult movie, which this isn't. So
right. And there's adult movies anyway that there's jokes that don't land. Even in your favorite comedies, there's a few jokes where it's like, well, that one didn't really work for me. And I think it's more than made up for the times where, you know, we're basically howling with laughter.
Oh yeah.
Just literal laugh out loud moments.
Yeah. And like you said, it starts right off the bat. Like very similar to Deadpool, you will be laughing from the opening credits until the end, basically. Like they don't waste any time bringing the funny.
Absolutely. Will Arnett's Batman does a good job of making you laugh, literally from the opening credits.
Yeah, and I don't think this spoils anything, but like we talked about the references, there is at least one reference to every single Batman movie that has come before this. Every single live action Batman movie, I should say. So there's just something awesome in that.
Even the serials from the 1940s.
Yes.
Which is often forgotten. People don't bring those up very much, but they happened. I think in it, it pokes fun at pretty much anything and everything Batman and DC related, which is what it should be. This is pretty much a parody of Batman, and it does it. And what I appreciate about it is it's clearly done from out of love to the character.
Oh yeah.
It never feels like they're actually making fun of Batman. It's poking fun at all the ridiculous things that we joke about when we get together and talk about everything.
Yeah, and if you listen to our review, or if you saw Return of the Caped Crusaders, that's like almost a little bit of that flavor, like the self-referential humor and like being almost like breaking the fourth wall, like understanding some of the ridiculousness of the Batman character, but like ramped up 1,000 times and spread across all the different incarnations of Batman. Whereas like Caped Crusader was just kind of poking fun at the Batman 66 TV series to kind of Batman. This has it all.
I will say there are a lot of similarities between the two. Obviously, not many people know about the Return of the Caped Crusaders, and this was obviously this is done on a completely different budget, and the quality of animation and everything is obviously much better. But there are a couple jokes that are very reminiscent of some things in the Caped Crusaders. Yeah. Return of the Caped Crusaders.
Something that was really cool too was just the sheer amount of characters, which is something you can just do in animation. That's really like, you can't bring in all of these characters in a live action movie because you are almost committing yourself to like, this is who we cast and this is what it's going to look like. It's so much easier to do in animation. And so they definitely take advantage of that. And if you have a favorite DC character, especially related to Batman in some way, chances are you'll probably see him in this movie.
Right. There's a good chance that you'll see him. I mean, the downside to that is obviously you don't get to see much with any of them, really. But I mean, that's to be expected in an hour and 44-minute movie.
Right.
Even the Joker, you don't get a whole lot. Obviously, the Joker is the main villain, but we don't get a whole lot of the Joker, I would say. Obviously, we get more of him than anyone else, but it's not like, it's more like, oh yeah, the Joker's in this.
Mm-hmm. So overall, what did you think of the story? Were you invested in it? Did you think it was interesting enough, or was it just that the movie was funny and had jokes that made it good for you?
I liked it. As far, I'm not a huge animation fan, and this is a story that works well. Obviously, works well in animation. This would, if I was trying to make a live action movie, obviously I wouldn't have anything story-wise. It wouldn't be exactly like this, but I think it's a good story for kids, and it's interesting enough. It's interesting. I mean, I'd say it's interesting enough to keep me interested. I'm not just there for, I'm obviously just there for the characters, but it's also a good story and get to see progression of some characters.
Yeah, and it is, I don't think this is too spoilery to say, but it's not like the main point of the story isn't really so much the conflict between the villain and Batman. It is, there's a kind of a different aspect of the story that is the through line through the whole thing that I wasn't really expecting, but works, like you said, it works well in this setting, but isn't something that you could do in a live action film, I don't think.
Right, and the story, it does have some heart, and I know it's definitely something that kids would relate to, and even adults can get something out of it, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you think of all the main characters? How'd you think the main performances went?
Honestly, I can't think of like any complaints for those characters. Maybe the only thing is like, but I don't know. Joker it doesn't really feel that much like Joker to me, but that's okay because I don't need a super scary, creepy, weird Joker, which like that's the kind of aspect that I like of Joker. And obviously you're not going to get that in a PG movie for kids.
Right.
And so, but the way that they kind of play on the Joker Batman relationship in it is funny because of the other incarnations of Joker that I know. So really, I don't have any complaints about the characters. I think all of them were spot on.
I agree, and I think the voice acting matched all the characters well too. And there wasn't anything that took me out of the story or anything like that. Or they all did a good job of their a Lego version of these characters. I don't have any complaints in terms of the cast. And yeah, like you said, obviously Joker is a tricky character for Lego versions, but I don't think this is bad. I think this is a really good for a Lego version of the character.
Yeah, and I don't know. Michael Cera was awesome. Like him as Robin is just hilarious, and he delivers perfectly. So, and Will Arnett as Batman, we already know that, but Michael Cera was great.
Yeah, you couldn't have much better casting than Michael Cera as Robin, and I thought Rosario Dawson did a great job as Barbara Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it all worked well character-wise.
Yeah. All right, so some people, there's maybe like rumors and fan castings of whatever of, so the director of this movie, Chris McKay, some people want him to direct a live-action DC movie. So after seeing this, does that increase your stock options in him at all?
Yes, I would say so. I would totally be cool with him taking The Flash or Shazam or anything like that. For me, the most important thing is in a DC movie is I want them to just love the characters and nail the characters the way the fans, the director to view the characters the same way fans do. Mm-hmm. And obviously everyone has a different interpretation, so that's impossible. But, he shows a lot of love, not just for Batman, but for the rest of the DC universe in this. Yeah. And to me, that's really my number one requirement for a DC director is that they love the characters. That's why I'm so glad that Jeff Johns is in charge of it, because even if, he's not your favorite writer, or if you've had problems with certain things, nobody loves these characters more than him. And so, yeah, I would definitely not mind Chris McKay being chosen as a director.
Yeah. The only pause I have is just the fact that he really doesn't have a lot of live action experience, but I don't know. I'm not that concerned about it. So, I mean, yeah, like everything you said basically sums up how I feel about it. So,
yeah. And frankly, any director that hasn't already done a $150 million blockbuster before would be a risk. Even with Ben Affleck, he's never directed a movie more than $65 million. Believe it or not, it would have been a risk if he had been doing the Batman movie. When Rick Famuyiwa was attached, he'd never done anything more than $8 million. I don't think animated to live action is as big of a jump as some people think it can be. It's obviously a lot different, but I'm sure he could figure it out.
Yeah, and it's more. You're right. It's the budget is probably the thing that is the bigger divider among the skill sets needed, because the actual like practical work of the camera and the special effects, it's more like the vision of the director, I would assume, and he kind of finding the right people to do that, to do what he has a vision for. And so like he had a vision for this movie and he had the right people. It's not like he's the one sitting at the computer actually coding up all of the graphics. I'm sure it's more the vision he had, and so that would translate to live action. So yeah, I would love to see him do a live action DC movie. And like you said, I think Flash would be a perfect fit for him.
Right. And I mean, he'd have a cinematographer, he'd have stunt coordinators, he'd have everyone, he'd have help, I'm sure, for this. So I would definitely be okay with that. I'd be kind of disappointed if he didn't almost at this point. So, anything else non-spoiler wise? We didn't talk about the larger DC universe that much, but it's definitely, it plays an important role outside of the Batman universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously a Batman story, but the rest of the DC universe is involved somewhat, I would say.
Yeah, like I said, I think you will be pleasantly surprised by the amount of characters you get to see in this movie. Even if there's a short interaction with them, they're all memorable and just a little snapshot of that character in this universe, which is pretty cool.
Agreed.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, yeah, I can't recommend this movie enough. I think if you're a DC fan, a Batman fan, want to see a funny, heartfelt incarnation of those characters, go see this movie.
Well said. So that is it for our non-spoiler section. We will be back, I would say, Monday or Tuesday, really digging into the spoilers and some of our favorite things about this movie and what we liked and the favorite lines and favorite characters, and really get into details with the spoilers. So definitely recommend checking it out this weekend. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening, and make sure to check out DC Daily Drop on Twitter, Facebook, and DCDailyDrop.com. Drop by tomorrow for more DC news.